everyone, good morning. Today we will learn what is the Convention on the International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, or what we call CITES. So what is CITES? It is an international agreement between governments. Its aim is to ensure that the international trade in specimens of wild animals and plants does not threaten the survival of the species. CITES was drafted as a result of resolution adopted in 1963 at a meeting of members of IUCN, the World Conservation Union. The convention was open of representatives of 80 countries in Washington, D.C., United States of America, on March 3, 1973, and on July 1, 1975, and CITES entered in force. Next, let us define climate change. Climate change will have long-term consequences for species as expected changes in temperature, rainfall, seasonality will cause shifts in tree species distribution and therefore habitat. There may also be changes in migration patterns and more natural disasters such as typhoons. So, what are the appendices of CITES? First, the species covered by CITES are listed in three appendices according to the degree of protection they need. These appendices are Appendix 1, 2, and 3, and each denotes a different level of protection from the trade. We have here Appendix 1. It includes species that are in danger of extinction because of international trade. Second, permits are required for import and export, and trade for commercial purposes is prohibited. And lastly, it is allowed for research or law enforcement purposes. We have here Tamarao and Philippine crocodile. For the Appendix 2, it includes species that aren't facing imminent extinction but need monitoring to ensure that the trade doesn't become a threat. Second, export is allowed if the plant, animal, or the related product was obtained legally. Lastly, the export will not be detrimental to the survival of the species. We have here Luzon bleeding heart pigeon and the Philippine forest turtle. And lastly, for the Appendix 3, it includes species that are protected in at least one country when that country asks others for help in regulating the trade. Second, regulation for this species vary, but typically the country that requested the listing can issue export permits. And lastly, the export from other countries requires a certificate of origin issued by its management authority as required.
Issues, problems, and concerns. These are deforestation and degradation, hunting, climate change, pollution, and biosecurity risks. First is deforestation and degradation. Forests around the world are under threat, jeopardizing these benefits. The threats in the form of deforestation and degradation. It leads to the extinction of animals and plants on a massive scale, as the animals lose their habitats and protective cover. Forests and meadows are cleared to make way for the growing of crops. This is mainly caused by unsustainable and illegal logging, which led loss of trees for wildlife habitat and other vegetation can cause climate change, soil erosion, fewer crops, flooding, increased greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The second problem is hunting or the exotic pet trade. Endangered species are often captured by poachers looking to profit from the lucrative trade in exotic pets. Many don't even make it to their prospective owners, but instead die in transit. In some cases, they are kept by people who don't know how to care for them or in conditions that don't correspond to their physiological and ethological needs. The problem in this is that the method used by the poachers to kill or capture animals and the way animals are handled are often extremely cruel and fail to comply with the animal welfare standards. The third problem is climate change. Climate change will have long-term consequences for species as expected changes in temperature, rainfall, and seasonality will cause shift in tree species distribution and therefore habitat. There may also be changes in migration patterns and more natural disasters such as typhoons. Climate change affects frequent and intense drought, storms, heat waves, rising sea levels, and warming oceans can directly harm animals, destroy the places they live, as well as bring havoc on people's livelihoods and communities. The fourth problem is pollution. Plastic pollution is a major contributor to the decline in species in the Philippines. Plastics end up in the ocean, where they are eaten by birds and sea creatures, causing injury and death. Plastic pollution is caused by littering. which means we human buy or use disposable plastic items such as food wrappings and bottles, and we do not dispose of them properly, which causes them to end up in the waterways and eventually in the ocean, harming wildlife when they can take them. The fifth problem is biosecurity risks. Wildlife trafficking can pose health threats to humans, native species, and livestock. Some wildlife carries viruses, bacteria, or species to which human native populations, where the wildlife is being exported, are not adequately resistant.
The interaction and dynamics between the human population and the ecosystem. There's an interrelation and complex dynamics between human being and natural environment. As human population increases, humans' need also increases. Human is one of the integral part of ecosystem that keeps on growing. That's why actions made by human, positively or negatively, greatly affects our ecosystem. Example, when we plant, conserve water, or avoid making action that produces smoke, we help minimize pollution. And if we did landscape fragmenting, mining, and refining, our actions may cause floods, global climate change, and even landslide. In short, each actions that we make backfires to us as well. So if you want to be treated well, treat also the ecosystem well as well.
Efforts and activities done to solve the issues, problems, or concerns. First is the Philippine Eagle Foundation. Jason Ibanez, the Philippine Eagle Foundation Research and Conservation Director, has established a comprehensive conservation strategy for the species. His efforts have resulted in the approval of local conservation areas as a plan for managing 500 square kilometers of eagle habitat, with the assistance of 350 indigenous people engaged as forest guards to safeguard eagle nesting sites and prevent hunting. This foundation has more than 450 households that have benefited from greater income, improved access to health services, clean water, and education. This foundation helps bring families out of poverty while also protecting eagles and the environment. So it is a win-win situation from the household and for the Eagle Foundation. Followed by Wildlife Law Enforcement Action Plan, Combating Environmental Organized Crime in the Philippine Project. Initiated 10-year plan from the year 2018 up until the year 2028. This is aligned with the Philippine Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. It serves as the national roadmap to address wildlife crimes and a guide to prioritizing enforcement activities, allocating funds and resources, and evaluating impacts of enforcement. So here is an example of the Philippine eagle or the Phytophagga jeffrey. Philippine eagle. It is sometimes known as the monkey-eating eagle. It is also our country's national bird because it is an endemic species in the Philippines. It is known for its bushy crest and distinct white-brown feather pattern. It is also classified as one of the largest eagle species in the world. Fortunately, in the year 1994, the organization IUCN, or the International Union for Conservation of Nature, classified the Philippine eagle as critically endangered. It estimates point to only 180 Philippine eagles left and continues to decline with each year. Marine Conservation Park. So the Marine Conservation Park is located here in our city, in Barangay Hayubo, Lambunao, Iloilo. It is being run by the West Visayas State University College of Agriculture and Forestry. It was established in the year 1993. And the next slide shows the two critically endangered species, the Malay spotted deer and the Lalongan and Panay tarik-tarik hornbill. Conservation is the act of protecting Earth's natural resources for current and our future generation. It does not only help to conserve the natural landscapes and geography, but also save the life of wildlife that lives there. Human population has greatly impacted the growth and changes in reduction in habitat of wildlife, and also led to reduce the numbers of wildlife. This could happen due to industrial and residential development, buildings, roadways, huntings, and uses of pesticides. Next slide are the ways to conserve wildlife and environment. First is to engage with the conservation community. Engage with the people who live alongside with us. Engage with the people who are profession are to conserve the community, to help and preserve the earth. Second is to reduce demand for illegal wildlife parts and products. So be an educated consumer. Do not purchase or stop supporting companies that made from wildlife and illegal wildlife products. Next is to make your yard wildlife friendly. Planting simple garden rule provides habitat. And 4. Protect the environment. Preserve the environment in which the animals live. The levels of exploitation of some animal and plant species are high and the trade in them, combined with other causes such as habitat destruction, has the ability to severely deplete the population and bringing some species close to extinction. Although not all wildlife species in trade are endangered, but the existence of an agreement to ensure the sustainability of the trade is important in order to safeguard these resources in the future. It is important for these to regulate it and to require international cooperation to safeguard certain species from overexploitation.